for joining. I'm Katie Shorey, Startup Maine's president, and we are very excited to continue this series. And this is our 7th session of the Entrepreneurs and Ecosystem Builders speaking event. And these virtual events feature doers and thinkers from across the state who are working on and building awesome companies and products, and also people who are helping to further develop our startup ecosystem. So today's event would not be possible without our sponsors, Bangor Savings Bank and Maine Technology Institute, as well as our business news sponsor, Maine Biz. And we are also very proud to be supported by Maine Venture Fund. So a quick shout out to our sponsors, you know the drill. For those who don't know, Maine Technology Institute was founded and funded in 1999 by the Maine State Legislature, and they offer grants, loans, equity investments, and services to support Maine's innovation economy. And they support new ideas, products, and methods with the potential to grow and diversify Maine's economy and increase the number of quality jobs throughout the state. And MTI also supports the innovation economy through event sponsorships like this. So thanks to them, they've been a huge partner over the years, and we're very excited to continue to partner with them. So to find out if you are eligible for funding, visit mainetechnology.org. We are also supported by the Maine Venture Fund. The mission of MVF is to invest in dynamic businesses that have the potential for significant growth and impact in Maine. And over $20 million have been invested in Maine companies from the fund. So then now I'm going to show my brief video from Bangor Savings Bank. Here we go.
All across New England, business owners are finding new ways to succeed. Families are working hard to provide for their loved ones and their future. It's the spirit of New Englanders that inspires all of us to do more. It's in our employees, our customers, and our communities. Every day we do more, because at Bangor Savings Bank, we truly believe you matter more.
Woo, great. All right, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Brian Rahill, CEO and co-founder of CourseStorm, and shout out to Matt James, Brian's co-founder. Today, we're just going to jump in, and I'm really excited to welcome Brian. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Katie. Excited to be here. And yeah, shout out to Matt. Would not be here at this stage without him. He's amazing.
Awesome. So Brian, tell us about yourself, your story.
Yeah, happy to. So little known secret, I'm from away, so to speak. So moved here as quickly as I could. And actually came here in 2000, so I've been here a little over 20 years. And when I moved here, I think like many people in Maine, I was looking for opportunities and decided to start my own business. Now that was we were attracted here from the University of Maine, and my spouse had a job, but I was, trying to figure out what was next for me. While I had, master's degree and whatnot, I knew I wanted to take a different path, and the internet was a pretty exciting place to do that. So I started a web development company, just out of my home, spare bedroom, and kind of kept growing things from there. So that was Rainstorm Consulting. It's my first company, and we specialized in websites and web-based software for academic institutions.
So how did you see the need for CourseStorm, and tell us a bit about that company, just so we can see how you went from Rainstorm to CourseStorm.
Oh yeah. So importantly, so obviously I'm the CEO of CourseStorm, and we make a really simple, we call it impossibly simple online registration system. And it is geared toward adults who want to take classes to either get a new job or just to learn enrich their lives, learn in ways that are happening really outside of school. So we're helping people find those classes, register, and enroll online. And so that was CourseStorm. The way we came up with the idea was actually we were working with a really cool organization called the Maine Adult Education Association. And right here in Maine, it's the Professional Association for Adult Educators, and they connect, about 75 or 80 programs all across the state. They exist in every local town has some adult education program. And they're helping adults get their high school equivalency degree. They're helping them retrain for new jobs. And they're creating classes that are stitching those communities together, just general interest classes. So, so we saw the need there. We worked with them. They wanted a software to help connect all of their organizations and make it really easy for anyone in the state to see what was happening, what kind of education was available, and register and enroll. And so we built that software for them. It was incredibly successful. Adults all over Maine were signing up. We said, geez, this isn't just a good idea for Maine. You know, it's probably something that exists all across the US. And we retooled the software, made it really easy, and now have customers in every single state.
Wow. So if I remember correctly, you fired Matt at Rainstorm and then brought him on as your first employee. So how were you thinking through, you know, the MVP approach, and you probably were, you know, building some pieces of it as you were flying. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh my gosh, Katie. Yeah, it was a total side hustle at Rainstorm to found CourseStorm. The firing of Matt James, it was a mutual decision. He actually begged me to fire him and get him full time at CourseStorm. He's like, if you just put me on this thing, I can make it fly. So that's what we did. It was certainly a leap of faith there, but glad we took it. We did, you know, we had a successful company. We were growing a successful web development, software development company, and so to then, you know, invest in the side hustle was definitely a leap of faith. But we decided, we took an MVP approach. I think many people know what that means, but it's minimum viable product. You do the smallest thing so that you can learn. And we just needed to know, do people want simple software to register? You know, like, is that a thing? And at the most basic premise of the company, is that true? And so we initially had a plan. We got a little bit of funding from MTI, which has been an incredibly supportive partner. And then we had a plan to just use that. And we launched a website or this software that had no administration area. It had no ability for the people who signed up to do anything with their stuff. We were doing it manually. So you can call it like, some people call it like a Wizard of Oz MVP. Like, it looks automatic, but there's people in the background like pulling a million different levers, you know, and we were handling money. We had a long list of spreadsheets, and we were literally like going through Excel spreadsheets to figure out which of our programs owed which money, and cutting manual checks. And I was like signing the checks, and we're getting in the mail, like all the stuff that is now completely automated. And that was important, you know, it enabled us to learn, like, yeah, there's a real market need here. And at the point where those things become too painful, when, you know, you're signing 100 checks a week or something, then you automate, that you make a direct deposit. When, you know, calculating the transactions becomes too onerous in Excel, then you automate that. So we've successively done that. And it's still really a core part of CourseStorm, is to continue to MVP things. When something's complex or we don't know, we always look for, like, what's the MVP of this? What's the smallest thing we can do to learn?
Wow. Okay. That's such an interesting insight of just how you were operating from the get-go, and just to see where you are now. So I always like to ask the entrepreneurs, just try to explain a day in the life for you, because you're wearing so many hats, going from this role to this role. So tell us what it's like to be the CEO from your perspective.
It's a joy every single day. It is. I mean, it's fun, but it is completely, it can feel completely chaotic. It can feel, especially in the early days, like, wow, there's not enough hours. How do I do all the things? So many things are on fire. I've been very, very fortunate. In the last year, my job has changed fairly substantially. And that's because I've been able to hire a leadership team that really has taken on many of the things that I used to do, and it has enabled me to essentially elevate what I do. So that's great. You know, I think we said this, you know, I said this to you earlier, that I feel like an early stage entrepreneur, like, you need to get, I said like a B+ in every subject. I think it's like generally a C. And like, if you can get a C in like all of the things you need in an early stage startup, you're doing fine. And then you just need to hire people that can get A's. And I've been fortunate to do that, where people that know more than me at their individual areas and do a better job. I've been able to fire myself from the roles and hire other people. And that's been key.
So how have you, I mean, this has been your baby, as they say. So how have you let go of control like that as because that must be a huge piece of it as you see the long-term goal and you're like, I need these other people to do these things to get there. But how in your mind have you been able to slowly let go?
Some would say not so gracefully, I think, but you recognize it's a challenge. It is a challenge, but you start to recognize the importance of where your other skills are needed, and it can be scary because actually what you're successfully doing, what I have found I'm successfully doing as a co-founder, is to constantly go into territory that no one knows anything about and no one at the company has ever done before. And you're constantly like leveling yourself up and growing, and that can be challenging and painful to continue to do that. And so I think the instinct is to run back sometimes for entrepreneurs to certainty and to things you're good at, because you're constantly going into areas you really stink at, and it is really it's challenging. So it's been some personal growth for me to recognize that that's what the company needs, and sometimes from prodding from others and recognition that they can handle those things.
So we haven't actually talked much about COVID on this series, but it's very applicable to you. And I would just love to hear how it has impacted you and your customers. What's been going on this past year?
Whew, it was a significant, I mean, it's been a challenge for everybody, right? I mean, just recognizing the personal challenges for everyone, and that extends to my team. There have been some really personal difficulties across the team, and so that's hard. We were growing really on the business side. We were growing, incredibly well. We were beating our budget projections. We were up 70% year over year through like, I would say March 12th or 13th. It was like everything, and then March 13th. So the important thing for you and for the listeners to know is that we make money based on the transactions that our customers do. We don't charge money up front. We just take a cut of each registration. And so generally these were registrations for in-person classes. People were signing up to take, again, in-person classes, job retraining, community education classes. And obviously that just stopped, mid-March. That went, we actually plotted it. We had negative registrations. We had weeks where not only were people not registering for anything, of course, but everyone else was canceling and refunding. So it was like our revenue just hit the floor and stayed there for a long time, until everybody started to figure things out. So that was a substantial, just chaotic, obviously, for everyone, but the way it impacted our business was quite dramatic.
And how did you get out of this? How did you get out of it? Because I know you've sort of set this path forward now, but what steps did you take?
Yeah. So I think what we told the team was a few things, and what we told our investors was a few things. We had a lot of confidence in our business model and in the long-term, viability of that business. We knew that people are going to need to retrain for jobs, and even more so now, and that people need community even more so now, and they're going to want to connect with each other. So we knew long term this looks really good. We need to hang in there. So we thought about it in sort of a couple different phases. The first was to sort of stabilize the ship, and just kind of write things, get everything organized. And that was making sure we had enough capital to move forward, and then making sure our team stayed together. Because we knew that we had built the team that enabled me to elevate, the team that could get A's across all of those different things. And if we lost them, that was going to be really detrimental to our long-term health. So sort of stabilize things, chart the new direction or any changes to the direction, and generally that stayed exactly the same. We knew we were on the right path, and then accelerate through that. So it was kind of three phases, and we are right in the acceleration phase now. So early stages to that acceleration phase, but stabilizing things was really important. We had help from our investors across the board. Many of the ones that you mentioned, MBF, MTI, have been critical to us, and also believed in our long-term health. Obviously the Maine Angels, CEI, Bangor Angels, like all our investors. And we told them the straight, we thought, this is this brutal facts. This is what the company looks like short term. This is what we believe long term. I feel very confident in my team. I feel very confident in the long-term health. And this is a believable financial projections for the next year and a half. And fortunately this year we were able to beat those projections. So it was, but it wasn't a rosy story. It wasn't going back to our investors saying, hey, everything's great and we've pivoted in this new way and now CourseStorm is doing something completely different. It was like, we're going to stay the course here. We just need the support to keep the team together.
And real quick, I just wanted to mention, you were offering some grants to your customers. And why did you, sorry, I'm having an issue with my contact here. Oh man. Faux pas on the Zoom call. So you were offering some grants to your customers. So what made you do that, or what what did that say about your company? Because I feel like that's a one of your values, or it shows your values.
Yeah. Well, we knew people were being impacted, across the board, and our customers actually, particularly here in Maine, as we chart that, we noticed that they were really being affected. So what we did was we opened up a program that we would give grants and essentially refund a portion of our fees back to the programs, and to enable them to move forward. So we knew, like, since our revenue is dependent on all of their revenue, if we put the money in their hands, they would figure out incredibly creative ways to move forward. They would teach their welding class in an airplane hangar, which some of them did, so that they could have social distancing. They would rent unused commercial spaces so that they could do yoga, that they could continue to teach GED classes, that they, all of that stuff was happening. They just needed a little bit of money. Most of our customers are nonprofits. They know what it's like to constantly be struggling and working. So like for them, it's like, okay, this is hard, but we know how to be creative. We know how to use a little and get a lot out of it. So we tried to give them the tools to do that.
Great. So you mentioned some of the organizations that have backed you, but what has been your approach to investing? Have you mostly focused in-state, out-of-state? How have you essentially approached raising your money?
Well, we did start by bootstrapping. It was always important for me that I run a profitable business and I knew it was viable before I started asking anyone else to put money in. So Matt and I got the company to a really small size, but a profitable size, and we felt like we had de-risked a lot of it. And that's when we went to investors, and we went really mostly right here in the state. Again, a lot of the organizations that I mentioned earlier were part of that first round, and the Maine Angels were a big part of that. The Bangor Angels right here, which had a great fund, they were first money in, which was really awesome. So we took in a lot of in-state money, friends and family money, and then we were fortunate as well to bring in some out-of-state investors. But really strategically, we Learn Launch invested in us, which is an ed tech accelerator and investments in the Boston area. And they've been with us. All of those partners have been with us through 3 rounds now.
Wow. And I don't even know if I asked this in the beginning, but remind us what year you were founded.
So we raised our first money in 2016. We started as a side project a few years before that, but again raised that first money 2016.
Okay. So you mentioned these groups. I just want to make sure we talk about any other entrepreneurial support orgs in Maine that you have either utilized or that you feel is working really well. So any insight there?
We have done all of the things. I will say that we have taken advantage of any entrepreneurial support, whether financial obviously has been important, but equally as important has been the connections, as well as the kind of the mentorship and education. I mean, I've definitely grown in my knowledge of how to run a startup, and a lot of it's been due to these organizations. I know Bangor Savings Bank is one of your sponsors. They helped to fund the first iteration of a Scratchpad accelerator, which happened in the Bangor region, and we were really fortunate to take part in that. So that was key. MCED, the Top Gun program, the innovation engineering program at the University of Maine. Like when I say we've done all things, like we really have showed up to all of that stuff. Green light, everything from promotion and funding, getting the word out, to education, mentoring, and those kinds of connections have made all the difference for us.
Awesome. And you have a distributed team. Everyone's remote, correct?
Yeah.
So how are you finding employees? Like, what do you look for in talent? Because just from talking to you, I have found that you're very intentional about how you stack your team. So how are you going about that?
Yeah, we are looking in Maine. So, and we, shout out, we do have a couple open positions. So check out our website if anyone's job hunting, or if you know someone who is. We definitely have a couple technical roles we're hiring for on our customer success team. So we'd love that. We do look for people that are located in Maine so that we can get together in person when it's safe to do that. And make that easy. But yeah, we have the team is all over the state. We hire for some core values and make sure that the people first and foremost are going to buy into those core values. And because we feel like we'd rather hire someone who is empathetic, is a problem solver, wants to experience growth, and is a lifelong learner. If we see those characteristics in people, then we know that even if they don't quite have the exact technical skills we need, they can grow into that because they want to grow. They're lifelong learners. They're going to solve the problems. They're going to be and a full member of the team and empathetic to their other team members and our customers. So things like that, like that's hard to train for, those values. If you don't have them, you don't have them, and that's fine. Go work at another company. But if you do have them and you can level up to the skills that we need, we want you.
Awesome. So what are you, with our 7 minutes left here, and if anyone does have questions and you're dropping them in the chat, I will try to get to them, but and then we'll make sure you have Brian's contact information. But I like asking, what are you most excited about? And then I want to ask you about just some big ideas that you'd like to see, just as we kind of tried to think boldly into the future. But for right now, what are you most excited about? Could be for the future of the company, just your thoughts there.
I am really excited. I mean, if you probably poll any entrepreneur, they say, I'm excited about the future of my company. I really am excited about the future of the company because I really do believe the two things that we help out with are needed more and more. People are going to need to retrain for jobs, and they need to do it. And the most vulnerable people have been the people that have been affected. And those are the exact kinds of classes that we're helping connect people to. These short-term training classes that help them level up in their current job or get a new job. And that's like going to be absolutely critical. The second thing is we have all lost some sense of community. While this is great, I would rather be sitting across a table with everyone and having a conversation. Versus doing this. Technology is wonderful, but we have lost some human connection, and people are, I think, really hurting for that. And so they're going to be going back to those personal enrichment classes and reconnecting with their community. And so I think those two types of classes that we are helping people sign up for, long term, really, really excellent.
We'll be back at it. Yes.
Yeah.
So when you think about some changes that you'd like to see, or just some big picture ideas, what comes to mind?
A couple of things, and one might be a sort of something for the investors that are listening, and one may be for the other entrepreneurs that are listening, or would-be entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs. On the investor side, I would say that we still have some work to do to make Maine a welcoming place for lots of different people, and to look for ideas in lots of different areas. I'm glad that investors believed and invested in me, and I think we're doing great work. We could do even more and look for ideas from people who don't look like me, who didn't come from Maine, who, and I think we're seeing that. We're seeing an influx of people. We're seeing increased activity there. I want to see that continue, and I think that that would be really good for the state and good for everyone. The second is to sort of shout out to kind of call out to entrepreneurs, and I'll say this took me a long time to learn, and I feel even slightly it takes a small bit of courage even to say this now, which is that it's really easy to posture as an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of pressure to like say everything's going great. At any meetup I've been to, it's not just in Maine, it's in Boston, in fact, it's more hype in the other places, and you run into entrepreneurs at the investor meetup, and even as another entrepreneur, you ask, hey, how's your company going? They go, it's going great. Everything's great. Like, we're doing great. And you can just see it in their eyes, like the house is on fire, and like, but the secret is like everyone's house is on fire in some way, or there's some fires that need to be put out. And I think what happens sometimes because of that posturing is it prevents us from seeking help, prevents us from saying, you know what, I don't understand this. This is really hard. And I need some help for that. And I've been, fortunate to try to fight through some of those things and say, geez, this part stinks. This is the brutal facts of this thing. Let's accept that. Let's find out what we need to do to solve it, and let's keep moving forward.
Yes, and that failure is very, very common. And I know people say, oh, we should talk about it more. But I think that maybe I should have some failure stories on here.
It's really hard. I mean, there's a lot of pressure not to talk about failure, and I think that exists. If you're an investor, you want to hear the success story. It may, as an entrepreneur, you want to tell the success story. That's what you want to focus on. And I try to make sure that in my communications with investors is that and with other entrepreneurs, I think even especially because they, is to tell them, hey, I don't have this all figured out. Maybe I was on Katie Shorey's, podcast and whatnot, but like, we don't have it all figured out. It's okay. And I think Ben Horowitz writes in The Hard Thing about hard things is like, I said, like, you have to be able to get a C on everything. He actually writes and says, the secret among CEOs is that like the mean score on all the things you have to do is like a 47. Like, everyone stinks at this stuff. Like, that's the mean, your peers that look successful, like they're getting 47s. And that's hard because I was a straight A student, and to get, 47s on things is tough.
I can't even imagine. Right. Okay. So last question real quick. And then I want folks to be able to get in touch with you. So if you're open to that, how they can contact you. So a question here from Sky. It sounds like you've done a fantastic job implementing a lean development cycle and found a market fit. So at this stage, what's your approach to scaling? Are you increasing the capital you're raising or minimizing risk and focusing on profitability? We have 1 minute.
Okay. So we are working toward profitability. That's a longer term plan. So we're running right the edge of how fast can we grow while using the funds that we have to get the organization to profitability. So it's just like this kind of like razor thin margin of, just sort of running out of cash at the same time we're hitting profitability so that we can keep the growth high.
Awesome. So if folks wanted to reach out to you, how could they get in touch? Where can they learn more? Obviously, CourseStorm.com.
Brian at CourseStorm.com, or check me out on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an invite. I have gotten help from so many people, and so I am always a big fan of giving back where I can.
Awesome. And remember, CourseStorm's hiring, so check out their positions or share with somebody that you know. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Crystal Williams. Really excited for that conversation about her new endeavor. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to have a very special conversation with the Maine Angels about what they've been working on. So thanks everybody for joining this morning. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And thanks, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.